Everything they've built will fall, and from the ashes of their world we'll build a better one. X-Men Apocalypse, directed by Bryan Singer, and is the third film in the rebooted X-Men trilogy. Now, I know you're all curious about my change of background. This isn't my bedroom, guys. This is one of the spare rooms in my grandparents' house, because my sister's gone to a concert this weekend and my mum's gone to a spa, so I'm staying with my grandparents for the weekend. For for the weekend I'll be making videos here, if that's okay. So anyway, back to the review. So I was so excited and hyped for X-Men Apocalypse after Bryan Singer directed the first two X-Men movies, which one was good, one was great, and of course he directed the masterful Days of Future Past in 2014, which was at the time my absolute favourite X-Men movie. But of course, what are my thoughts on the non-Bryan Singer X-Men movies? Well, The Last Stand, everyone hates it, but I like it. I don't think it's nearly as bad as everyone says it is. X-Men Origins Wolverine, however, there's no defending that movie. It was terrible. It was atrocious. People almost gave up hope in the X-Men franchise after that. So this rebooted trilogy is exactly what the X-Men franchises needed, with First Class and Days of Future Past both being legitimately awesome. The X-Men franchise is finally looks like it's been restored to its former glory. And when I heard there was going to be a movie about the X-Men's greatest enemy, Apocalypse, and Bryan Singer returning in the director's chair, and finally an X-Men movie that barely had any Wolverine, because it was getting a bit boring having Wolverine as the main character all the time, I was jacked for this movie. However, then the reviews came out, and yeah, the movie sadly had mixed critical reception, and sadly that put a lot of people off this movie, because this movie apparently, it definitely has a lower box office takings than Days of Future Past. Days of Future Past made 700 million. This movie made about 500 million, and so yeah, I was still looking forward to it. I did not let the critical reception put me off whatsoever, because there were some people who loved this movie and thought it was underrated and didn't listen to the critics, and so that's what I chose to do. And so after seeing it, I can gladly say, what were the critics talking about? This movie is a masterpiece. It is absolutely amazing. This is not only my favourite X-Men movie of all 9 so far, counting Deadpool, but it is the best comic book movie of 2016. I absolutely loved it. So the simple story of X-Men Apocalypse is the world's very first and most powerful mutant, who was worshipped like a god back in ancient Egypt, was thought to be destroyed, and his followers, the Four Horsemen, died protecting him. And now, thousands of years later, Apocalypse has awoken and is recruiting the Four Horsemen to basically bring the apocalypse and end humanity. So it's up to Charles Xavier and his team of X-Men to stop Apocalypse and basically save the world. Yeah, simple plot, but hey ho, I like it. So let's start off by saying the opening scene of this movie is truly magnificent. It is the greatest opening for an X-Men movie and one of the best openings of 2016, period. It starts out brilliantly in ancient Egypt, seeing Apocalypse, played by Oscar Isaac. I'll talk about his performance later, but how he's worshipped by, he has thousands of followers. He is worshipped like a god because he is obviously a mutant who can do things that they can't, and he has 4 extremely loyal followers, the Four Horsemen. and uh, and when his tomb collapsed and he was thought to be deceased, his followers. I love how loyal his followers are. They talk about loyal to him to the death. They literally died and gave their lives protecting him. Now, Oscar Isaac as Apocalypse just absolutely kick-ass, just truly fabulous as Apocalypse. The Oscar Isaac was great as Poe Dameron in Star Wars: The Force Awakens last year, but this is his best role to date. I loved Apocalypse. An outstanding antagonist. I mean, he was both huge, he was truly frightening, he was truly formidable, and the film did a brilliant job of presenting him and building him up. Like I said, he had a great backstory back in ancient Egypt, and when he finally awoke, he looked through all of our technology to see what the world had become, and he was not happy with it. He believed, because he was the first mutant, that gave him a good motivation to believe he was a god and all of humanity should follow him. And he was not pleased to see that humanity were following what he considered false gods. And so, and he gave some magnificent Hitler-like booming speeches as well. While I while people may get a bit tired of his monologuing, it didn't bother me too much because he didn't do it the entire movie, unlike some villains. But when he did make a speech, it was epic. You listened, and yes, the stakes were so high when he was recruiting the Four Horsemen. He was going to end humanity. He was going to destroy the X-Men mansion, and he was going to end the entire world. And he is, without question, the biggest threat the X-Men have ever faced. You felt like he really needed to be taken down. And that epic, charismatic speech that he did, they, like, everything they've built will fall. He did that in the trailer, like, 4 times. I think they overdid that speech in the trailer to the point where we weren't surprised to see it in the movie, but... So yeah, Apocalypse, 2 thumbs up for him. The critics that called him a one-dimensional villain, who I really don't think he was. And his followers, the Four Horsemen, they were great too. We had Magneto. I'll talk about Magneto in a minute. They had Storm. She was badass as ever, and they had this girl with the 2 electric blades. Oh, she was epic. And of course, they had Angel. He was freaking cool with his big wingspan. I love what they did with Magneto in this film. They explained his backstory. They explained why he would want to follow Apocalypse and betray Charles, because Magneto had a family. He had a wife and daughter who... And then the tragedy happens, and you can see why Magneto would want to join Apocalypse. It really hits you there, and also the returning cast from Days of Future Past, and First Class, like James McAvoy as Professor X, Charles Xavier. He's perfect. He is absolutely fabulous and owns the role of young Charles Xavier so well that Patrick Stewart, I think Patrick Stewart is very proud indeed, because he has a worthy successor, and Michael Fassbender as Eric Magneto are also wonderful. Like I said before, the film gave him a great backstory, and he is a worthy successor also to Ian McKellen. I think Ian McKellen is very proud too. And Jennifer Lawrence reprises her role as Mystique. She was so badass and kick-ass as Mystique in Days of Future Past, and here she's exactly that too. She, of course, disguises herself at times you really don't expect it. You're like, oh yeah, that's Mystique, that makes sense. And I know some people don't consider her Mystique because most of the film she's not in her Mystique form, she's just Jennifer Lawrence, but I still store her very much as Mystique. That didn't bother me. And in the team, I really liked this team of young X-Men like Beast, Cyclops, and Nightcrawler. Nightcrawler was so cool how he disappears and transports himself to another location in the blink of an eye. And yeah, they don't get as much to do, nor are they as developed as some of the other main characters, but they were still great. I still loved them as a team. They were like the new generation of X-Men, and I rooted for them to take down Apocalypse. And one of the best characters in Days of Future Past, Quicksilver, returns. Bryan Singer knew so well how to use Quicksilver in that movie. I wasn't sure whether they were going to top his amazing scene from Days of Future Past, but that's exactly what they did in the destruction of the mansion where Quicksilver hears the explosion. He's just zooming around, saving all the students out. It's such a masterful scene. It's hilarious. It's so flawlessly filmed and put together, and gosh, the visual effects were just brilliant. This movie deserves an Academy Award for visual effects, let's just say. This is certainly the best looking of the X-Men films too. And while some people may be put off by that scene for trying to add comedy into the destruction of the mansion because it's supposed to be an emotionally powerful scene that will leave you devastated, but it was still powerful. It still really got me there. It showed what a threat Apocalypse really was, but putting Quicksilver saving all the students, it really didn't bother me. It shows that there's still hope and they can still fight against him despite the odds. And I almost forgot to mention Sophie Turner was just incredible as Jean Grey. She, of course, is awesome in Game of Thrones too. Yes, I am a Game of Thrones fan myself, and she was incredible as young Jean Grey here. She was again a worthy successor to the original actress, and gosh, when she used the Phoenix at the end to defeat Apocalypse, I cheered. It was such a great moment. And Rose Byrne reprises her role in this movie. While she doesn't do much, she is pretty much here in the first act of this film to, well, give exposition, how she explains the backstory of Apocalypse to Charles. And however, she does get a minor role in the final battle, which was great. Yeah, the first half of this movie is a little exposition heavy. There's a lot of explaining and a lot of backstory, but it's great. But it's a great backstory, and it's necessary exposition with the X-Men team being recruited and Apocalypse recruiting his Horsemen, and the second half of this film, it's the big payoff, and it greatly delivers. The final battle is, to put it, is just epic. Emphasis on epic. It is the best finale of all the X-Men movies. If this is Bryan Singer's last X-Men film, this was a great way to wrap it up. So overall, X-Men Apocalypse, I'm in the minority. Many critics will disagree with me, but I love this film. I have to say, this is my favourite comic book movie of 2016. Yes, I liked it even more than Batman vs Superman, Captain America Civil War, and even Suicide Squad, believe it or not. I know critics didn't like it because they keep comparing it to Civil War, which was an amazing, complex comic book movie, but I think it's nice once in a while to have just a simplistic hero versus villain comic book movie that we really don't get very often nowadays. I give X-Men Apocalypse 5 stars out of 5. Thank you all for watching. What did you think of X-Men Apocalypse? Do you agree with me? Do you think it's underrated, or did you think it was meh like some others? Whatever you thought, comment and let me know. Please like this video and subscribe. Please follow me on Twitter and on my Google+, and I'll see you all next time.